I'm actually starting to think elections actually don't matter. And let me explain what I mean, right? So, if you think about the power the vote had in 1994 and the power the vote has in 2026, you realize that in 1994, we had regular South Africans, black people who were oppressed, trying to end or destroy the apartheid system. And that was the thing, they wanted a better South Africa for all. So we actually had patriots who wanted to be in charge and control. And you think about the person they let become the president. Really, Nelson Mandela didn't live in South Africa those 27 years he was in prison, and he was expected to lead a country he, in all honesty, knew nothing about. But that's a conversation for another day. And then we come to 2026 and we think about the election. And when you actually think about it, we don't have people who, or politicians who are actually patriots, who actually love the country. They just want to be in power in order to enrich themselves. And when you think about that, you realize it really doesn't matter who you vote for, because they all want the same thing. They want to enrich themselves. And I think about the ANC, which has been running the country for majority of democracy. Now we have a national unity. But when you think about the ANC and you look at their leaders, from 1994, you have Nelson Mandela, who, like I said, in all honesty, we expected so much from the man when he was really clueless about what life was like for those 27 years when he was inside. I think Winnie Mandela had more insight than him about what was actually happening and the reality of the regular South African. And then you look at Thabo Mbeki, who, when you think about it, was he a good president? Maybe, maybe not. I think at some point he was a problem for the people in charge of the country, the Manel family, the Oppenheimers. And then you look at Jacob Zuma, and Jacob Zuma is labeled as one of the worst presidents South Africa has ever had on the media, right? Internationally, he's known as one of the worst presidents South Africa has ever had. But I beg to differ. I think he was actually a president that actually loved South Africa. He may have been corrupt. He may have, had scandals and whatnot to enrich himself. But one thing about him is that he loved South Africa. He made sure the poorest of the poor actually had a chance. And then you look at the president we have now, who I think is the worst president we've actually ever had. But the media won't portray that. But we, the people who live in South Africa, we know that. When Ramaphosa came in, we had hope. We thought, I don't think anyone, except the people who knew him personally, I don't think anyone besides those people thought he wasn't going to be the savior of South Africa. I thought with him, because he came in as a rich man, I thought to myself, because he's rich, he won't really want to steal money. If anything, he wants to help South Africans. I really thought he was going to be the president that ends, or at least significantly changes the structure of government and ends corruption. But he did the opposite. If anything, criminals are thriving. I would say it's better to be a criminal in South Africa than it is to be a regular citizen. And when you think about Ramaphosa, he always contradicts himself. And clearly, he isn't the person who's in charge of the country. He's being controlled. He's being told what to say. If you look at the history of who the president was and how he grew up, you realize that he was always bound to become president. In fact, Julius Malema even said this. In fact, he was mad when he wasn't named the deputy president when Mandela became president, because he was promised that He was always promised he was going to become the president. He just didn't think it would happen in 2018. So when 2018 occurred and basically Zuma was overthrown, when that happened, it was because, in my belief, it was because Jacob Zuma was the kind of president that the people who are in charge of the country, when they tell him do certain things, he did not just agree with them like Ramaphosa does. I don't think Ramaphosa is the kind of president who, when the Oppenheimers tell him change this policy or do such and such, he never says no. I don't think that's a good idea. He always just says yes sir, no sir. In fact, he never says no, like I said. He'll say yes sir and he'll just do it. With Zuma it's different because he's a patriot. He thinks about his people. So he can see certain things. He's like, no, this is going to damage my people or destroy my people. And he would refuse. And this is a wild statement, but I think Jacob Zuma is actually the Donald Trump of South Africa. I honestly believe that. Is Donald Trump the cleanest person on earth, the least corrupt? No. But he loves America and its citizens. And I can say the same thing about Jacob Zuma. That is why whenever the MK party does anything, everyone gets worried. They really do get worried. And then another thing is, with the government, as South Africans, we're not happy. We're angry. But the problem with us is we're angry on our cell phones. We're keyboard warriors. And that's a big problem. That's why when March and March occurred, the government suddenly had this big budget and pulled out the military to shoot. They were really willing to shoot at South Africans for practicing their constitutional right of marching. So the problem is, when you complain on the internet or all of that, it's not really a big problem for them. The moment you say, let's unify and march, it becomes a big problem. And this brings me to my next point, which is the problem we have in South Africa is we are still not over apartheid. Black, white, colored, Indian, all these ethnic groups, we still don't. Not only do we not like each other, I'd say we hate each other. And we fight amongst each other. If a white person complains about something that is actually happening, a black person will make fun of it because a white person is struggling. But he doesn't realize that that person's struggle is also my struggle. So it's a thing of we're selfish. We're always insensitive to things that happen to people of other races because it's not happening to us. We're insensitive to it because we haven't felt that or experienced that. And it's the same thing with racism. I think we can honestly say that when a white person is racist, everyone knows and it's a big deal. When a black person is racist, it's not a big deal. We think of it as normal because the black person was the oppressed back in the day. So what I'm saying is the government has done such a good job of dividing the citizens of South Africa, meaning you and I, the regular citizens of South Africa. And when we aren't united, it's easier for them to rule. It's the law of this game called Mafia where it's basically, the game shows how an informed minority will always beat an uninformed majority. So there's strength in numbers and unity. But if those people who are in numbers don't get along, then the people with the information, or the people in parliament in this instance, they'll always be in charge and they'll always control the people. That's why I'm saying, as South Africans, the problem we have is we don't know how to unite. I don't think we love our country. Because if you're black or white, if we actually stood for one thing, which is being patriots and loving our country, we would actually do something about this government that we have. The big problem we have is, even with the upcoming elections, the problem we have is most of these political parties are people who just want to be in power. They want to be in control. They're not people who actually are patriots and they love South Africa. They think of politics as a job. And I believe politics isn't a job, it's more of a calling. It's a thing of a leader isn't created. You don't make a leader is born. So the thing with leaders is you need to love the 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 cause you're leading. And I feel that is not the case with South African politicians. And we can go through them. You know, the leader of the DA, the leader of the ANC, the EFF, PA, all these other, there's so many, that's another problem we have in South Africa. There's so many political parties. But I think all those organizations I named, I think they prioritize being in control more than actually loving our country. Because all of them want to implement policies that don't really benefit the regular South African. I mean, you look at the ANC, they've made promises to people that they've made promises they never held up to. Ever. There isn't a promise the ANC has made that they've kept. Yet we still keep voting for them because why? It's a black person. When you hear someone who was born or who lived through apartheid telling you that it was better during apartheid, it says something about you. It says, are we still living in apartheid times, except now it's not black and white, it's rich and poor, it's politicians and poor. Is that the South Africa we live in now? Because when you think about it, the vote actually means you choosing who is going to be the face of your oppression, because we are being oppressed whether you like to admit it or not. So what we're doing now is we're okay with us being oppressed because the president is a black man. I'm telling you, if our president was a white man, we would have gone into revolt a long time ago. If we actually had a white president for the past, what is it now, 8 years. Ramaphosa has been president for 8 years, 2018, yeah. So if we'd had a white president for the past 8 years and he was doing the exact same things that Cyril Ramaphosa is doing, he wouldn't be president right now. But because he's black, we're willing to accept it. Why? Because of all these BEE policies and all these things of equality. And black people, unfortunately, myself included, we still have the mentality of being victims. And unfortunately, we've become so accustomed to being victims and being victimized that we're okay with it being a black person. Everyone is saying Ramaphosa has the problem and whatnot, but the truth is the whole constitution, that whole political structure we have, the legislation, all of that is a problem for all South Africans, black or white. I think a lot of people are under this conception that it's only black people who are suffering from this. White people are also suffering from crime, poverty. You know, the murder rate is at its highest right now. I was looking at that a couple minutes ago. It's at its highest right now, and it's scary because it's not just white people being, killed, it's black people as well. And with the white people, unfortunately, we still have white people who think they are better than other races. That's also a problem, but it's that thing I'm telling you about. It's that we aren't patriots. We don't love our country. You look at 1994, the white politicians in charge, they loved South Africa. So did the struggling black South Africans. But it's like when we got democracy, everyone just sort of stopped loving the country, and we just were like, at least we are free, we're no longer oppressed. The love we had for our country is gone. I look at sports. We have the best rugby team in the world, but when have they ever addressed the issues we face as South Africans? I mean, we see it in the documentary. We play for South Africa. When we win for South Africa. But you win the Rugby World Cup. Okay, everyone is happy. I was happy you won the World Cup. then what? That's the time when everyone is looking at you. You just became world champions. You can't take out 2 minutes of your time to actually speak about the corruption that's happening in the country. I saw it in the Chasing the Sun documentary. They said something that is very true. The Springboks, I don't remember exactly who said. He said the South African rugby players are the most masculine men we have in our country. And I agree. But why are those masculine men quiet about the things that are happening? Really? Why aren't they marching in the streets with the people? Do you think on 30 June, if the Springbok players were there marching with those people, do you think guns would have even been pulled out? If they had announced that we will be marching with our people on the 30th of June. You remember when Fees Must Fall happened? We had celebrities about AKA Obani who were there to march with the students to do what? To protect them. But we don't have those masculine men. Instead, what they do, they go on the rugby field and they win, and we are proud of them for that. But then they think their job is done because they've won. And let's be honest, that's not enough. Our people are struggling. Do you think in 50 years we'll still have the Springboks as the best rugby team in the world? I don't think so. I think this country will be up in smoke. So people are okay. That's the thing with South Africans. That's why I'm saying we're not patriots anymore. We are selfish. It's that thing of, if I'm good, I don't care about anyone else. If I'm eating at night, I don't care about the child. But you come from there. And that's the problem we have as South Africans. We're not patriots. We don't love this country. We don't love our children. If anything, we're distracted. We're focused on the wrong things. Entertainment, all these other things that don't really matter. And it hurts to see that. We aren't patriots. We don't love our country, man. And we need to start loving our countries and let our actions show that. But no one is willing to say that. We have exceptional people. If we had any of the Springbok rugby players saying this message that I'm giving out now, I promise you, it would instill and inspire so much change. But they don't care. Everyone just wants to survive and feed themselves. And that is a selfish way to live as South Africans. We talk about being the rainbow nation, the spirit of Ubuntu. Ubuntu bethu buphi? Asinabo. If anything, we are more divided now than ever. And we have illegal foreigners uniting in our country and they're taking over. And what are we doing? We are busy on the keyboards. We're not doing anything about it. We should be marching in the streets. Instead, the elections are coming up, and I promise you, these politicians, they're going to come to the rural areas, promise you all these things, take pictures with you guys just to get your vote and forget about you. And you know that's true because they did it the last time. And they're going to do it again. And they'll do it again in 4 or 5 years when elections happen again. And they'll keep doing that. Why? Because we are divided. We refuse to unite. Like I said, the social media post doesn't scare them. What scares them is when we actually get on the ground and we unite. That's why March and March. That's why Jacinta. That's why they're scared of them. Because Jacinta, when Jacinta speaks, she can get people together. That scares them. The only reason she hasn't been killed is because she's a woman. A black woman at that. They know if they actually do that, people might actually unite in numbers. Because you won't kill that woman, a black woman like that, and let it slide. We have an influx of gender-based violence. Children are getting kidnapped and trafficked. When is that going to be declared a state of emergency? Illegal immigration. It should have been declared state of emergency a long time ago. Namanje salindini. A year and a half ago, we had children dying from eating food that was contaminated from shops of illegal immigrants. And what did our president say when he addressed that? He said nothing about that. He said it's unfortunate. What we should do, we should get these guys licenses. Was anyone arrested for that? That's because Tina, as South Africans, we are not united. We don't realize that the only way to affect change is to do what they did in 1994, and it is too much. The reason 1994 worked so much is because people were not keyboard warriors. They would wake up each and every day, going out to march, just disrupting the system. And that's what we need to be doing. But we're not doing it. We're comfortable. As long as when unomsebenzi wakho, usirholele imali yakho, ukhona ukudla every night, it's cool. But you have to understand it's going to get to a point where now awukho ukudla. But you don't care about umakhelwane wakho ukuthi akadlanga izolo, as long as wena udlile. That's what I mean. Like, they've done such a good job of dividing us as South Africans. There's classism in South Africa. And everyone wants money. We all want to be rich. No one actually wants to see South Africa thrive as a country. No one actually has the vision to see each and, like me now, my dream is to see no one living on the streets. 0 street kids. Everyone has a place to stay. Everyone has a meal to eat at night. That's the vision and the hope I have for South Africa. But everything you see on social media tells you to do the exact opposite. That's something we as South Africans, we need to work on together. And we need to get on the streets and actually start marching. That's what we need to do. And overthrow these guys. Actually have someone who is a patriot be in charge. I think of Rassie Erasmus. Rassie Erasmus would be a better president than any politician in there because he actually loves South Africa. And I believe, like, I have this belief, Yoguti. In fact, I think it's true. I think most of you feel that way. You would take or trust Rassie Erasmus' word more than Cyril Ramaphosa's word, our own president. When your own president, our own president speaks, you don't trust anything he says. You know when he's speaking, he's lying. Even before he starts speaking, you know he's lying. And yet he's still the president. And another thing is they control the media. SABC News is controlled by them, so they pick and choose the narrative. They can show you a video of someone getting beaten and then give you a narrative that the person who's getting beaten deserved it. They push and control the media. They push and control the narrative. So you have to understand that we need to stop taking everything from social media and actually start being realistic. Look at the life you live and the life your neighbor lives. And think to yourself, what they're saying on the news is a lie because this is reality. So yeah, we need to unite as South Africans and actually have the masculine men, because we can't put all of this on women. We really can't. We need men who are actually going to save this country. And an election is not going to do that, trust me. They are going to lie yet again. Benza manifesto. Zonke lezinto, things that don't matter. They're gonna do that and just keep lying. And stay in control and want power. You look at Gayton McKenzie. I look at the guy, he's a joke. And unfortunately, colored people like him because he's colored, but he's unqualified. And that's another problem we have. We don't pick the most competent leaders. We pick leaders because of their skin color or because they represent us. Because he's black, I'm going to choose him. Because he's white, I'm going to choose him. You don't sit down and think to yourself, is this person actually qualified? I honestly don't care who the president or the leader of the country is. I just want the most competent person. That person can be Indian, can be white, can be colored, can be black. I do not care. I just want someone who's competent. That's what every South African should want. Instead, people will tell you, yo, I will never vote for a white president, because of apartheid. But you look at it, that white person is the most qualified. He's actually the person that can change your life and save this country. But you won't vote for him because he's white. You don't realize the people in charge, they're doing that because they don't want you and another white person to get along. You hate white people, you hate black people because they are pushing the narrative. I just told you. So sad to see, man, that we as South Africans are not united at all. We really aren't. And that needs to change if we actually want our children, our grandchildren to have anything. We have the most corrupt individuals, the least qualified people running this country. And we're okay with that. We really are, because if we want, we would have done something about it a long time ago. But yeah, elections are coming up. You vote for who you vote for. But one thing I can promise you is things aren't going to change until we, the people, realize that we actually hold the power. There's power in numbers. There's power in unity. There's power in having one mission, which is to save South Africa. There's power in one passion, which is loving our country. I remember the slogan of the Springboks. I loved it. It says stronger together. That's such a true statement. We are much stronger together. We are stronger than they'll ever be. They need us more than we need them. But they fooled us and created this illusion that we need them more than they need us. And that needs to change. We need to get on the street. We need to march and march and march and march until South Africa wins. Until South Africans win. We can't hold and hope that elections are going to change or save us. They aren't. I promise you. These elections now actually mean nothing. If these guys are corrupt and they rig and they lie to us about everything, what makes you think they don't do the same thing with elections? You think this government of national unity was a mistake? Really? The ANC is slowly losing power. They knew they couldn't just snap and have the ANC lose power like that. So what do? They create a little transitional period where the ANC will slowly lose its power and no longer be the party that's in charge. Next thing you know, it's a whole nother party that's in charge. And now suddenly you can't even afford to live in South Africa. Already South Africans are being treated like second-class citizens in their own country. I'm not just telling you this. You live this life. You know this. The South African government cares more about illegal foreigners. Not even foreigners. Illegal foreigners. They care more about them than they do about you. A South African born and bred here. So, this has been on my mind for a long time. And I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. It's frustrating and it hurts to see the country you love go up in smoke like this. And we are seeing it. It's not a thing of I see Boni is going to be a sudden thing. It's been happening for years. We've been seeing what's been happening to South Africa. It's slowly getting destroyed, and slowly is actually an understatement. It's happening at a rapid pace now. So we as South Africans need to get over apartheid. I'm being honest. We need to get over apartheid. We need to understand black, white, Indian, colored, no matter your race, we need to put that aside and remember and understand that we are South Africans at the end of the day. And us hating each other, not only does it destroy the citizens of South Africa, not only does it destroy you and me, but it enriches the people in control. It enriches the politicians, because that's what the politicians need. That's what the government needs. The government needs us to hate each other amongst each other. in order for them to stay in control. Because when we fight, when we hate each other, it's them saying, you see, we can't have the, you see why you need us, because you guys are acting this way. But if we actually got our shit together, and united as South Africans and understood we are South Africans. I'm not a black person, I'm a South African. You put that first above everything, things will go much better. You need to stop being selfish. Just because your life is good, just because your life is comfortable, it doesn't mean someone else's life is like that. In fact, you should be wanting for someone's life to be just as good as yours. You sleep at night just fine, roof over your head, you eat 3 times a day. There's a child out there, he eats once every 3 days if they're lucky. And because you're selfish, because they'll hide it from you and from the media, you don't know about that. You've become so insensitive to the well-being of others, yet you claim to be South African. So let's unite, guys, and save South Africa. Let's get on the streets and march. And now I'm speaking to men now. We need to man up. We need to stop acting like children and actually man up and stand for our country. Windot, you're a man. Stand up for your country. Because your country is going up in smokes and you are watching. You're busy, you're watching soccer. You care more about Pirates and Chiefs. You care more about the Blue Bulls and the Lions. Guys, those things won't matter in 50 years when this country's up in smokes. Just because you won't be alive in 50 years doesn't mean your grandchildren won't suffer or your great-grandchildren won't suffer. We need to start manning up and standing up for our country as men. We can't expect to put the lives of our women and children in danger. I love what Jacinta's doing, but she shouldn't be the one doing this. We should all be standing up together and fighting this system like we did in 94, except this time we're not fighting, we're not black versus white. This time it's South Africans versus this government, this incompetent government that's made false promises and never kept any of them. They keep enriching themselves. They live in their estates. They have these multi-million rand businesses that don't benefit you and me. They benefit them. Yet when they ask for your vote, they said your life will be better. If anything, it's gotten worse. And them, they're up there, pilaramnand with security and all of this other BS. So guys, let's unite as South Africans and understand that we are stronger together. Thank you for your time.